All right, everybody, welcome to episode 3 of the Bent Limbs podcast. Today, we're doing it a little bit different. We're going to add some video because we've got the one and only Mr. Troy Fowler, the ranch fairy, here with us today to talk crossbows, bolt building, and just everything else that's going on in the ranch fairies world.
Absolutely.
So, Troy, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely, man. Super fun.
So, within the compound bow community, you have been extremely popular, extremely helpful. And I know within the crossbow market industry and the people using those weapons now too, they've definitely found you. And I've seen a lot of people talking heavy bolt building, all that kind of stuff. I guess first, just walk us through who you are, how you got started doing this kind of stuff, and just some of the success that you've seen going this route with ranch fairy arrow building, heavy arrow building.
So I killed a Pope and Young deer in 2008, and I couldn't care to shoot another deer. I just don't deer hunt anymore. I don't care. I want to kill an elk, and I want to do caribou, and I want to go to Australia and do. I've been in on probably 100 deer kills with my nephews and my kids and stuff. But I killed a deer. I put him in the book. He's a legit low fence, 155-inch deer. And it went away. I fished on the national seashore here just to show you how weird I am. And fished for 15 straight years. And I caught a 9.6 tiger. Finally, caught a bunch of black tips and bulls and other stuff and jacks. And finally caught my target fish. He was 9.5 feet long. Had to go out and tail rope him, dragged him up on the beach, cut the hook, took pictures, pushed him back in the ocean. He swam off, stopped shark fishing. I didn't need a 12-footer. I mean, I got a big one, right? On my own, public, no fences. Can't put a feeder up for the tiger sharks, And I'm currently pursuing a 10-pound bass, and I got a scary feeling that if I catch a 10-pound bass, I might stop bass fishing and do something else. But anyway, the story goes back to years and years ago. I started running our family ranch, and I started calling myself the ranch fairy because I take care of the house and the scooters and the feeders, and I run the deer hunting operation. I manage the deer herd with the Parks and Wildlife. I know how many deer we can kill every year and keep it kind of managed. And we got target deer we're trying to kill and all that crap. So I fell in love with shooting big feral hogs, and they're not easy. Everybody's like, well, you just put up a deer feeder and a big one just walks out there. Well, no. They know what the deer feeder is, and they know they're in danger. And a big one's 5 or 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been shot at, run, chase with, every asshat running around with a dog, traps, everything. They're smart. And I would get about 5 shots a year at one over 200 pounds. And the 200-pounder on our place happens to be big. We don't have any agriculture. Our pigs work pretty hard. So a 240 is an absolute monster. It's a big animal. They're 6 feet long from ass to nose. They're big, physical, big animals.
Yep.
And I kept losing them. So I put in all this time. I had cameras up. I started targeting certain pigs. I'm letting pigs come passing. Like big groups come in, but you don't shoot them because that some bitch is probably laying over there. And if you shoot him, he says, I don't come back for a while. They're that smart. And when one finally commits, he thinks he's not dying. And I guarantee you I was less than 50% effectiveness at 17 yards at a deer feeder. And you can wait. There's no shot angle problem. When he finally commits, he's going to sit there and eat all the corn and run everything else off. You're going to get a quartering away, standing still shot. And I'm 50%. And I'm not hitting them high, and I'm not hitting them back. I wasn't getting penetration.
Yep.
I was getting enough to kill them. And I honestly think there was 2 things. The mass wasn't high enough, and the arrows weren't tuned. That's a combination. And I think my broadhead selection was really inferior, and they were eroding on impact. And we need to cover that with crossbow thing because y'all are going so fast.
Yep.
So what I think was happening, now that I'm starting to reverse engineer the studies with the Ashby Foundation, I think the broadheads were dull. So the thickest pig I measured was 6 inches from the inside of the rib cage on the impact side to the top of the skin.
Jeez.
So you get 6 inches of penetration, you still ain't killed him. You got to double that, more than double that, to get the broadhead to the other lung. one lung in them, they just laugh and run off and they don't even die. We had multiple pigs we've shot and killed them later with guns and stuff and found the broadheads in them. It's in them. So I got pissed off because I have guns and guns work. 44 Magnum. I got a 44 lever gun with a little 2 to 5 power scope on it, and you shoot them right there with it. And it makes this hellacious whopping sound and everything dies. It just kills the hell out of them. It's so much fun. And you still only you got to get 70 yards away, right? It's pretty inefficient. So anyway, the only place I had to go was Dr. Ashby's study. And I had nothing to lose because I was already losing them.
Yep.
So I said, to hell with it. I've got every broadhead on earth, and I'm mechanicals. I shot mechanicals in Africa in 2008. Shot light arrows. I shot fast. I shot slow. I shot trad, and it wasn't working. And they're right there. They're right there. It's not a tricky deal. I said, to hell with it. So I started playing around on my own, and I left all my friends because you can't do this and not lose some friends because they'll get all pissed off.
Yep.
And finally, the last straw was I shot a pig with a schwacker at 17 yards. He weighed 220 pounds because I killed him 2 weeks later in the same exact spot. I don't know what the hell, you're a dumbass. And he was 17 yards, 420 grain arrows, 70 pounds. Turned it loose, hit him right in the vital V. The broadhead went in that far. And as he ran by the deer feeder leg, it hit the leg and just flew up in the air. And I said, and I was piddling with the heavy stuff already. I wasn't convinced. I wasn't breathing my own exhaust fumes. I was just piddling in the backyard, hiding in the dark and stuff. And I had a 670 grainer tuned up. Exactly what Ed shot. I shot the grizzly. I learned to sharpen, 2-blade, single bevel, 3-to-1. I went back 2 weeks later. I hit him in almost the exact same spot. I look out the window of the tent blind and I see dust. He went 60 yards. He went all the way to the fletch on him. And he went 60 yards and he was dead. He wasn't flopping around or spinning or squealing. He was dead.
Yep.
And I said, I'm done. So I started my own channel. I already had this moniker, the Ranch Fairy, from ranching. And I typed it into Google one day and nothing came up. I said, okay, well, you're either awesome, like a Chris B kind of guy, or Dudley, somebody with a really big name, or you're very unique and unforgettable.
Yep.
So I went with it. And I figured I would stay in a hole. I figured I would be over here with the tinfoil hat guys, antennas all over the roof, got your windows, and nobody wants to talk to you. And it went it went further than it just continues to get stupid. So that's the story. I failed a lot. I had nowhere to go. Here's this guy shooting these great big animals with a longbow and shooting completely through buffaloes with it. I started doing that. And now, and this is going to sound completely arrogant, but because you don't get to hunt with me, when I hit them right, I just get out of the stand and go get them. When I shoot them, I shot a pig the other day I was testing a tough head prototype. He's going to come out within a couple of years. And I shot this pig and I went through it so fast, it was like 10 yards. I thought I missed. And I backed up the camera and I said, nah, I didn't miss. It was low, right in the armpit. I just got out of the blind. I didn't even wait. And I walked over there and got it. It was 60 yards away, dead. They can't survive. But again, that was a super high quality broadhead, razor sharp, learned to strop. Blades didn't fail. The arrow went 25 yards back past him. And, onto the crossbow thing. You guys have a tremendous arrow system. It's short and stiff and brutal.
Yep.
And you have a lot of velocity. You can drive into a very heavy projectile. And your forward to center is off the charts because your shafts are so short. That's the great weakness of the vertical bow. Is the long guys, the arrows are long. So forward to center is much further forward.
Yep.
It's just math. The shaft length calculates into how much forward of center there are. That's why you get women shooting 44 pounds and shooting 30% forward to center, because they're shooting 580 grains and they're shooting through nilgai. and they're getting 40 inches of penetration on Cape Eland. We got a gal that shot she's going Cape buffalo hunting this summer, but she shot an Asian buffalo here in Texas, 50-pound bow, 825 or 50 grain arrow, 30% forward to center, single bevel. She shot it right there and it hit the pelvis.
Jeez.
7 feet of penetration. Feet. And we see people on television can't shoot through a deer.
Yep.
And it's terrifying. So I think we should just ramble about the crossbow things because, man, the crossbow world has got everything right. Short, stiff. You can suck some of that energy up. Don't shoot 450 feet per second. Shoot 350 and shoot a 700 grain. Shoot a deer anywhere. Project. I mean, anywhere.
Yep.
You got to aim for the vitals, but I'm saying any angle, it don't matter. You can break them if you shoot the right broadheads.
So yeah, let's this is actually, this is something that not only the listeners but me personally, I kind of wanted to walk through with you. So we basically, my friends and I, and we both compound bow hunt, we crossbow hunt.
Yeah, sure.
We did your tuning process from all your videos on our compounds, and we're like,
yeah, I saw them.
Holy crap! Like, why didn't we know this years ago? And it was super easy to translate to a crossbow. I mean, there's a lot of factors. You're not having to worry about your grip, your anchor point, like the human factors, the human elements of it. Those are all removed. It's just the matching, the forward of center, the arrow weight, broadhead weight, knock tuning, and really making sure you have a quality bolt to shoot out of them. One thing though that we, or at least I, we were struggling to get bolts, and this isn't a bad thing because I know, you preach all the time, perfect arrow flight. It doesn't matter what you're shooting. If it flies like crap,
it doesn't matter. Crap, sideways is sideways. 1,000 grain sideways or 400 grain sideways is sideways.
Yep. And we would, we would usually run into with a few different bolts, and we're big fans. You hooking us up with Seth from Sirius was fantastic because those bolts
are those really good bolts. I've only shot.
They're awesome.
I've only seen them shot. I haven't shot them. Okay, good.
They're
his
awesome.
Stuff's great. All of his stuff, and I'm sponsored by Sirius, but the only reason I am is because the first time I got my hands on their arrows, I didn't have to do much with them. I shot Black Eagles. I shot Gold Tips. I shot the X Impact. I shot 4 different models of Black Eagles, and I'm not bashing any of those guys, but they have a weave on the outside of their shafts. And I talked to their shaft design guy, and somehow that makes them consistent.
The bolts are super consistent bolt to bolt. They were the only bolts that we played with that had kind of a window of a sweet spot. So most of the bolts that we tuned, once you got it shooting a bullet hole with a point weight, if you went plus or minus 25 grains, it was 1 point weight or one weight up front. The Phoenix bolts, you had like a 50 grain window. So you could shoot 100, 125, 150 before flight would start to deteriorate.
So I'm kind of stupid in this world. Are there one stiffness of bolt? I mean, could you go, is it the same thing or does it not apply at all?
It really, so there are not many bolts. They don't say like what the spine is. Like you're not going to buy a bolt in a 400 spine, 300 spine, 250 spine. Like there's not options for spine. It really is just, they normally don't list them. So it really is just like you buy different bolts and try them. I think there are. How heavy a
bolt have you been able to get to fly?
So I've got mine right here. I was going to, show you. So the Phoenix bolt, and Seth, he ships them with, it's got a 110 grain stainless steel insert that you can knock a little bit off if you want. I think it goes down to 92 grains. We've been able to get it to fly. This is a cutthroat 150 grain single bevel. So right about with that 110 in the insert, 150 up front, that's about as heavy as we've been able to go. And most bolts we're finding are in that, I'd say 200 to 260 grains total up front, depending on what it is. And then as you add more weight, you start to get, you can tell your bolt is flying through the paper like that.
Right. Because it's coming off of a horizontal. That's the only direction it can go.
Yep.
Is up. It can't go sideways.
Yep.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
Yep. So I guess that was one of my questions. If you had any recommendations. So this setup right here is, 110 insert, 150 grain point. It is 543 grains total. And that's about as heavy as I can get this one.
Yeah, but I bet your forward to center is 29.
Yeah. It's the only thing that I haven't measured. I've done some of the calculators and I don't think they're quite there. This particular bolt, the reason it is a little heavier, the crossbow that I shoot takes a special knock. This is actually an aluminum knock. So I think I'm losing a little bit having a heavier knock at the end. If you shot the Phoenix stock knock, this is like 531.
Yeah.
And that's been a pretty, if you want to call it like butter number for several.
What's the grains per inch of that thing?
I think it's 9.54.
Your forward to center is in the high 20s because I'm running 10.5 grain, 250 spine at 28.5 with 300 up front.
Okay.
And my forward to center is only 24%. I mean, you're 6 inches shorter than I am, right? How long is that thing? 20 inches?
This one is 22, but yeah, most bolts are 20. This one, we just kept it as the Seth ships them as 22 and we just kept them as that.
How far out does it hang?
Not bad. I mean, outside your riser, it's maybe like that.
Oh, so you couldn't cut 2 inches off or something and really get short.
You could. I mean, most crossbows, there are a few that specifically shoot 22-inch bolts, but you can always shoot longer. You can't shoot shorter. So if your bow is and most bows shoot 20-inch bolts.
Because the stock is that length.
Yep.
Okay, so wow, my head's going all over the place. So I hang out with Dr. Ed Ashby a lot. He lives 3 or 4 hours from here. And we've asked him this numerous times. He's getting tired of it. He's just a walking encyclopedia of God everything. He tested Barnes bullets before they were anything, shot thousands of animals culling in Africa with Barnes X bullets, and sending reports back and telling them what to do and how to fix this and what the velocities were and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He was a PH, and he's got a shotgun with a ghost ring on it. It's a pump Model 12 kind of shotgun. And I said, what's a ghost ring for? He said, all you do is get a piece of Jaguar in that, pull the trigger. Or leopards. And I said, not Jaguars, leopards. I said, oh, it's a follow-up gun. So if you're tracking a leopard, all you want to see is cat in the ring and pull the trigger. That's how it's zeroed at 10 yards to save your ass. You say, just hit the cat with buckshot at 10 yards. It's going to spin him. He's going to be just, he's going to be discouraged from clawing your face. But the question that we always asked him, out of 1,035 shots with 113 data points that were documented, he did a lot more shots than that, but in the study, it's 1,035 shots and 113 data points, and you had to do it by hand. This is the 80s and 70s. So if you ever read the Ashby reports and you see the graphs and stuff, for all of us that have Google, it took hours to do that. It's unbelievable. He said so you have to understand, he started with, all he had was wood and aluminum, and carbon showed up. He didn't have carbon through the study. And then poof, carbon shows up, and it allowed him to load the front and just start shooting a really high forward to center arrow because he kept messing with the geometry of it. He said forward of center was the most surprising thing he saw for penetration in hunting situations. And 30% is magic. It's almost impossible to get there. You have to be a real short draw length and shoot I've got a 30% arrow in the garage for a bow that I have. It's 26-inch draw and it's 45 pounds. The arrow weighs 760 grains. And it's 30% forward to center with a 3-to-1 single bevel. And I shot it on a test big the other day at 20 yards. That bow's going 153 feet per second. and it cut the scapula off, and there were bone fragments in the meat, and it penetrated 19 inches.
Jeez.
So that little short bolt you just showed me, you're probably in the high 20s. You're talking about, I'm telling you, point on shot, just aim at the bone, snap them, just rock them.
And you know,
it's gonna do it.
And we haven't. So, I mean, I guess this would be year 2 for us with these. And, you know, our story is super similar to yours in that we were, I mean, I would like to think of us as all decent hunters getting opportunities at deer, and we weren't shooting them in the ass. We weren't shooting them in the ankles. I mean, we were losing deer or having track jobs that were just an absolute freaking nightmare. Shooting.
So the hits were pass throughs and stuff, or did y'all ever have them stop?
With these, no. I mean, these were all pass throughs. These were, I mean, but with mechanicals, it had to be pretty much a completely broadside shot where you're hitting ribs, you know, 90 degrees perpendicular to them, blowing through them. We all shot rages, like 2-inch chisel tips. But if it wasn't perfectly broadside, we had low penetration. We had, you know, I mean, blood trails that would be great, but would be one lungers that would go on for a mile or more. You know, and
or it was a complete hero, right?
Or it was a complete hero.
I had that experience too. I'd either hit them I'd hit them right, and there would be knee-high blood, and they'd be 50 yards.
Yep.
Or there'd be a good blood trail, and it would be the hell. I mean, it went in halfway. There's 14 inches of arrow in the deer. I'm shooting a vertical bow, but so it's interesting that you say it had to be broadside. And I have this in one of my videos, and I'm going to bring it back. I think it's the greatest weakness of every mechanical broadhead platform on the earth is if you have a quartering shot.
Yep.
One of the blades is open and one of them isn't, or two, if it's 3-blade. And it levers to open space.
Yep.
And so your arrow's coming in like this and it hits, and then and faster's worse. So it's really and it levers. And that's why you see these wounds sometimes that are that long, right? And they don't ever show the other side because it went in 7 inches and the deer freaking got wounded to death. I got that. But the broadhead's coming in like this and the target's like that. And so it hits, one of the blades deploys, and the arrow literally does this. We have a high-speed camera coming for the Ashby Foundation. We're going to show this. But if you take a mechanical broadhead, just go to your target. If you shoot them, it's fine. And push it real slow into the target and watch the blade deploy against the skin, and the other side's not deployed. So it's going to go towards the open. The energy's got to go somewhere. It doesn't keep going forward.
Yep.
And so your arrow goes just goes sideways, and that sucks out the energy out of it.
And I guess
pretty straightforward.
I should probably back up to just a minute for everybody. What I was describing, a lot of our struggles with mechanicals was compound, with lack of penetration. A lot of the mechanicals, though, I mean, I would get pass-throughs with rages with my crossbow, but a lot of times the blades it was going so fast, they would pretty much just explode. And you would get when you would find your broadhead in the dirt, I mean, the blades would basically have broken right where that little bit of, support is.
Yeah, it's too much velocity.
Yep.
It is. It's just too much velocity. That's what I was going to say. For you folks who are shooting a crossbow, you really need to upgrade your broadhead systems. You need to spend the money. He's got the cutthroat. That thing ain't bending. Shoot the Tough Head Evolution. Shoot the Grizzly Stick stuff. Magnus is a great brand. I can stand it. But you got to be real careful when you go to Walmart or wherever and you buy the Raven and you buy a scope and you spend all your money being cool. Then you can be offended if you want. I just don't give a damn. And then you buy crappy broadheads because broadheads kill the deer. And then you blame something other than you being cheap and dumb. And like I said, hate mail, Troy at ranchfair.com. Don't ride his butt because I said it. But there's a lot of people that do this. And what you need to do is build an unbelievable aero system. And then I would spend less money on the launch mechanism. Or just know you're going to have to get mom to convince that you're going to spend another $300 on arrows. But as simple as this sounds, broadheads kill the deer. As fast as the crossbow guys are going, you're talking about massive blade erosion. You're talking about impact velocities double a vertical bow. And, well, not quite double, but some of them are pushing it. So 40%. And then can the steel handle it? And you think it can. Just goes, well, the razor sharp and they're hunting sharp. Well, yeah, they're trying to sell you broadhead. You've got to really, you're not doing yourself any favors shooting inexpensive broadheads and upgrading everything else.
Yep.
I don't care if you buy it all. Couldn't care less. I recently met the Annihilator guys, and that's a wicked little freaking hatchet. That thing's nasty. I'm not a big 3-blade fan, but they get real sharp and they don't look like they're going to bend. And any one piece, and then some of the brands that I talked about, you really need to find something that'll handle.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of junk out there.
And I know, Troy, you've got a lot of videos on this. But I think one of the biggest things for, this was me when I first tried. I think I had like either a Wasp or a Muzzy or some fixed blade laying around that I very first tried on my crossbow. If your bolt is wiggling a little bit out of that thing, you might as well have a wiffle ball at the end of it. it flies.
Or you got to know
crazy.
The distance where it hits down. So you go, well, 23, 42. Yep. Okay, well, that's the only 2 hunting distances I get.
Yep. So maybe
it's a big deal. Yeah, broadhead flight. I met a guy named Daryl Barnett, and he worked for the DoD for 30 years, and he's made things fly Mach 11, rail guns, and tank killers, projectiles and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And too much information. Dude is amazing. So you introduce a wing on the front, and you got fletch on the back. So field points like that. Just imagine that on the front, going through the air, okay? And then it takes off and does this. Well, it does this, and it does this, but it never returns to center. It does not have enough, because it is slowing down the whole time. This is why your broadheads wander. The broadhead takes off. Here's the sight line. It goes like this, but it never goes like that and can correct. It's not like steering a car and you go in a freaking ditch and then you go across, because you can push the gas. You can make the car go faster and get yourself back in the lane. Okay. It's more like a drift. I like drifting, especially when I was younger, where you go down in the ditch because you're with your boys and you might have had a beer or two and you decide to drift it, and you drift it and you come out and you come right back into the lane. That is what your broadhead, your arrow does. Okay. So here's a sight line, and it goes like this. It barely gets back, but it keeps doing this. And it goes like that, and it goes like that, and it goes like that. And it takes, so here's a sight line. It takes its own path because it doesn't have more velocity to make it cross back over. So people think it goes like this. If that was true, we wouldn't have Broadheads Wander, because the arrow, the bolt, everything is slowing down. So right when you hit the trigger, or a guy lets a release go, it comes off at launch, and it's hitting the atmosphere and it's slowing down. So it's losing speed the whole time. And that's the problem. So you really got to tune them and make them stay on the sideline, or you're going to be sad. Whatever.
So talking about tuning, for those that, maybe haven't seen your videos, crossbow guys, could you walk through, and I don't know if you've done it with a crossbow or not, but if you haven't, could you walk through maybe like what if Troy Fowler picked up a crossbow today, picked up a bolt, how would you go about tuning that bolt?
Well, this is going to be total self-advertising for you, but I would just go to do what you did. So, the kinetic energy machine that you have chosen is just a launch mechanism. It'd be way easier just to think about it as a projectile moving toy. Okay. And it's only got so much force. It's set at whatever foundation. If you can adjust it, fine. But let's just assume you've set it.
Yep.
Okay. The arrow flexes a certain amount. Whatever's on the front of that shaft makes it flex a certain amount. If you change the point, it'll flex different. It's called columnar loading. But nonetheless, you hit the trigger on your crossbow, it pushes the knock, then the shaft moves, then the point moves. It's not possible it's any other way. Nothing moves whole.
Yep.
And it's a pretty long stick going real fast. So what I would do is do what you did, which is my tuning method is I'd get a bunch of different field point weights and I would shoot them until you see whatever front point shoots the best. And that'll be the bend that likes to come out of your kinetic energy machine. And that's the one that should fly. You got to back it up and shoot your broadheads, blah, blah, blah. But just assuming that I'm going to put the old 125 grainer on there and it's going to work leaves a lot of slop in there. And for 20 bucks, you can get a set of field points from Sirius between, 200 and 300 or 100 and 200 and go find out. Rather than practicing and trying to make something that isn't flying fly and figure it out, I would change the field points until it flew. And then once one of them starts behaving, I would rotate the knock to each of the three positions you get. Because, your vanes are sitting like this, right? Or, well, there's one down the rail, right?
Yeah, there's one down the rail. Yep.
Okay, so you would rotate the knock and put one vane down, rotate the knock, put one vane down, and find out where it really wants to shoot. That's exactly what I would do. And I would just accept the results. If you get in between, so let's say you get 100 to 200 grain field points and 175 flies. That's a really wacky number.
Yep.
In the broadhead world, it's a dumb number. 150 will fly because broadheads are less aerodynamic.
Yep.
They push harder on the atmosphere, so they shoot heavy. So you'll be fine. But that's exactly what I'd do. And I would really upgrade the broadheads and I would learn to sharpen. I would do the, hand sharpenable broadhead like you've got, or a tough head, or some of the grizzly stick stuff, because with a crossbow, I'm not kidding. A quartering 2-shot, you should be aiming at the joint with a single bevel. You should break their shoulder. They should be running off with a flopper. You have so much velocity. If you get your mass up around 550, it's super short, it's super stiff on impact, it's got high forward to center, and the momentum's off the charts. Y'all got to be shooting in the 120s or something, right? Have you ever calculated the momentum of that thing?
I haven't, no.
Oh, it's just got to be outrageous. And you always want to aim for get a broadside shot, shooting, straight up the leg, lower 1/3, zoop, right, tighten the shoulder in the vital V. But if you get that quarter inch shot, I'm talking right there, just with that broadhead you're shooting or a similar design, it shouldn't be a problem. I can do it with my compound. I've done it to tons of pigs testing, and I will tell you that I have done. I've occasionally do gut check. I don't do it anymore. But when I first started testing this, like 2016, and I started just, little pigs. I didn't start on the big ones because I wasn't sure. And I started shooting them right here with a single bevel, and it just makes this chut sound. It's not very loud. You probably noticed that shooting with a single bevel. It doesn't make a lot of, just shoots through them.
Yep.
They're not there. Just do.
Yep.
And it just makes this chut. And then you see them, like one of them ain't working. They're dead. And I go pick them up, and the bone's cut in half. But it doesn't make a big pop. And if you want to see a really cool video, go to the Hunting Public channel and go and see Aaron Warbritton. He's got a big 10-point by a lake. And I did a video on this.
Yep.
And listen to the sound. There's not much sound, and he broke the ball with the humerus.
Yep. I saw that video. I saw that hunt too. Yeah,
And he's
that's
shooting
that.
the head you
And
got
that's the
right there.
exact same one right here. Yep.
Yep.
I wanted
That was a fun deal to see.
yeah, that was sweet. And that's, I mean, that's exactly what, you know, we struggled with shooting mechanicals, compound or crossbow, was the plan B type of stuff, or the when things go wrong and your setup is not plan B, not getting through those kind of things. And honestly, this was the first year, all my buddies and I both shooting compounds and crossbows, that at least I can remember since I've been back here in Michigan, where no one lost a deer. And one thing I think the most, I guess, surprising thing, and you've talked about this on your channel, maybe you can explain it again here, is, you know, even good shots with the rages, the big expandables, gushing blood trails, but normally, I mean, they still ran pretty far. So the deer I shot, the one I shot with this year, I actually shot him at 5 yards. I was only standing 6 feet off the ground, and I thought I missed him, and he took 2 hops, tail flickered, fell over. And we had 3 other guys, all that had deer fall within 40 yards. Like, and the animals didn't even know they were hit. So
they don't know they're hit.
Can you go through that, like kind of what you talk about on your channel as far as like why that is?
And I can go like into physiology and stuff. So I'm a respiratory therapist. I was fortunate in our school to have cadavers, which is not normal. So for 6 months, I had a human cadaver that I worked on, and they gave us tests with open up the chest with pins stuck in lungs and heart arteries and stuff. And you had to know what the hell was going on. It was really cool. So what you're seeing is 2 things. The chest wall of us and everything else is more of a dull sensation. If anybody's ever been in a fight or you get hit by something and you get hit with your arm up, it's not this pinchy thing like when you get pinched under here, your buddy grabs your freaking nose because he's a butthole, or you get kicked in the nuts, right? So the pain receptors of the chest wall are not very sharp or whatever. Now I understand getting tattooed across the rib cage from a friend of mine, that it's exciting, but that's a needle driving into the rib cage. That's a completely different thing. So what you're seeing is they don't feel it. They don't know. It isn't enough to alarm them. There are things bite them all the time, and there's mosquitoes, and you know, things fall out of trees and stuff like that. Naturally occurring things that happen to them. They live out there 24/7. They don't get to go inside and sleep in the bed like we do. So they don't feel it, which is to your advantage. Because if you don't get a blood trail and they're completely unpredictable, if they only go 40 yards, you got them. If they go 140 is when you lose sight of them, it gets a little more tricky, right? So, and then being able to shoot forward and stay on the crease or forward of the crease, which I do not advocate shooting behind the crease at all, because the physiology is terrible back there. You get this condition called cardiogenic shock. You can look that up. It's a medical thing. It's a fact. So what happens is you sever the major arteries in the cardiopulmonary system. And it's like cutting a hose, like you turn your hose on and you got it sealed off, and you cut the hose and it sprays out. Well, your hose has infinite volume, right? Because of the city. Animals and us don't. So the first thing that happens is when you cut those arteries off, the heart speeds up and the blood starts pouring out and it leaves the legs. There's no other extra anywhere. So the body starts pulling the blood towards the heart, and it's just gushing out. It may be internal, but it's spraying, and they can't run. Like, they physically can't run. First, they didn't react, and then all of a sudden, all the blood's pouring out of their system, and it's literally going up their legs and going back towards the cardiopulmonary system, trying to save the animal's life, and it doesn't work. And you'll see that over and over again. You see this tail flicker. You see the ones that are wobbling. They don't have any blood in their legs.
Yep.
All the blood's in their brain and their head. They're going, what in the hell? My legs aren't working. Doop.
And then the reaction to a mechanical, even if you hit them same spot, let's say, perfect shot, it's just the thwack, the big cutting diameter. Like, they know something other than
something really popped them on the ass, right?
Yep.
It's like setting the gun off next to them. And so then if you don't get a blood trail and they run full speed, even if you get a decent blood trail, it sprays it. I shot a black buck antelope. God, they're fast. About 15 years ago, I was up in a tree and he was about 7 yards, and I shot him right next to the spine, and it came out right here. And he was booking it, and then all of a sudden he went like that. And there was blood everywhere where he was laying. And he was bleeding good, but he was running so fast that it was everywhere. So then you get in early September and you get in thigh-high grass, and they run 100 miles an hour, and it's spraying out. You're not going to see these, gushes where they're walking and stuff. It doesn't help. But if you kill them in 50 yards, any dumbass can tell they ran over there. So if there's a circle, all of this you've eliminated. We're going that way, and you get, you open your line up a little bit, but he went that way. So it's not like you shoot them and then close your eyes and try to figure it out. You really want to put them. That's better for the meat too. You really don't want them flopping around for 2 hours.
Yeah,
that's not good for the meat quality either. It's not good for our sport either.
Yeah. It was awesome. I mean, several of us thought, honest to God, we missed. And I honest to God thought, I was like, I have never had unless I spined them unintentionally, I had never had a bow kill do that, fall within basically bow range. And, that, I mean, like I said, you and these type of setups and the information that you're putting out there, I mean, you've saved a lot of us a lot of heartache and a lot of headache because we had it before. And so I want the crossbow people to absorb this, because I fear and I see, a lot of people, it's like exactly what you said, got this badass new crossbow, shoots 425 feet per second, grab some bolts, go to Walmart, buy some mechanicals because they shoot great. And then
I'm not denying that they do fly.
They fly. They do. But I think it's important. Explode. I mean, your process, I mean, I never would have thought a cutthroat single bevel 150 grain would fly out of a 415 feet per second crossbow. But when you do these things, when you match the weight, when you knock tune, you have a quality bolt, arrow, whatever you want to call it, it works, and they do fly. And like you said,
they work great. And don't look past shooting aluminum inserts in a heavier broadhead. So Sirius offers heavyweight inserts, and that's a fine. But whatever boat you're shooting, if you go to Sirius and get, you can just click on my face and get some field points. If you're shooting an aluminum insert and then 225 or 250 flies, which is what you're shooting.
Yep.
Just buy a really heavy broadhead that's 0.08, diameter or thickness. I mean, I'm setting up a Cape Buffalo setup for a gal named Sarah, and she's shooting a 300 grain tough head. It's 3.25 inches long by 1.125 wide. I've got them stropped out where they are just terrifying. 740 grains at 25%. And she's pulling 65 pounds at 27.5 inches. You can be fine. But the broadheads are 0.081 thick, knife grade, super high quality stainless. It's not stopping. And if I was going to advise her, if she wanted a lower weight arrow for going out west or whatever, I might lower the insert weight to aluminum and tell her to shoot a 250 grain broadhead. That's badass, because the broadheads do the damage. They do all the work. I ran this by Ed, and I said, because we're getting ready to start the testing with the Ashby Foundation. We finally got some funding, so we're going to start breaking things, which is just going to be super fun. And I think that he did all of his stuff with a longbow, and he broke his back.
Okay.
He fell off a mountain hunting sheep, so he couldn't continue he was going to go do compounds. It just didn't progress, so we're going to do it. He told me when he got his forward to center above 25, 27%, that he stopped breaking inserts. He said it didn't happen anymore. But below that, the balance point or whatever. We don't know what that is. We're going to go discover it. So I think what's going to happen in the initial studies when we start shoulder shooting big hogs and stuff, I think we're going to see a lot of shafts damage. We're going to see a lot of inserts exploding and stuff. And I really do think the really heavy insert things we might make it go away.
Really?
Yeah, I really do. I think you may want 300 grains up front. You may want a 40 grain insert and the rest of it in broadhead.
Yeah.
Because that's what takes on all the, you don't want it to push back. You want it to just cut and keep going. And more to come. I don't know. I know I've been every insert system on earth. The sleeves aren't any better. Sorry, they aren't. I've bent them all. And I'm getting Sirius is sending me their new arrows, and I'm going to put aluminum inserts and shoot 300 grain points. And I'm going to see if the results are the same.
Okay,
I'll find out. And more to come on that. It's going to be fun.
Is there any
stuff is fun?
Is there anything or any possibility with Dr. Ed Ashby and the Ashby Foundation that you guys would do any crossbow related?
Yeah, he
testing?
doesn't. Ed doesn't care. Ed's got 3 pages of things he wants us to do.
Yeah,
and he isn't stuck on a bow platform.
Okay.
He looks at bows as just a way to fly an arrow. If you look at the Ashby Foundation, we don't talk about bows.
True. Yeah.
We're the world's leading authority in arrow effectiveness and lethality. It doesn't say compound bow. It doesn't say crossbow. Your broadhead and your arrow cannot fail. And that's where a lot of people lose me on that. And that's okay, because it's just bad indoctrination and the industry's not doing us any help. But whatever, we'll figure that out. But steamroller right over that. But it's the broadhead and the arrow that kills everything. All we got to do is make it fly. And all the focus is on crossbow X or bow Y or this longbow is better than that one. And all this crap. And no one wants to talk about the stick. And what you've discovered is how much the stick matters.
Yep. Your
whole story is stick failure. You said I wasn't shooting them at half of them went shot in the ass and bounced one off one's head and intention, shooting everyone high. You said you weren't missing. And I saw this when I started doing my channel. I went back and just reviewed a bunch of hunting videos on YouTube. The pros, any guy with a 1.5 minute shot a pig, the bad ones that didn't have the intro, the guy just starting or whatever. And I didn't see a lot of bad shooting. I saw some high stuff and getting jumped and stuff you can't control.
Yep.
But I didn't see a lot of gut shots and arrows. I didn't see arrows. I see arrows swimming like this. I didn't see loop-de-loops we seem to have solved it relatively for moderately accurate shooting at normal distance, which is 95% of hunting deer under 30 yards.
Yep.
Right. We just face the facts. That's what the bow hunting world is. And some of us get to go elk hunting, blah. But nobody's talking about the stick. And I didn't see all these bad shots. So it's not the shooting. But if you get on a message board, they're just going to tell you you're a bad shot.
Yep.
And a couple of the pros are real bad about that. All they say is it's all shot placement. But I don't see that. I agree from a physiologic standpoint. The broadhead needs to go in the rib cage and preferably on the crease or forward. That's the most lethal spot on all animals from mouse to pachyderm. On the crease or forward. Got it. But what that means is these big-headed idiots, all they're saying is you're not a good shot. They're not saying it's shot placement. They're saying I'm a good shot, you're not. That's what that means. It's like 3rd grade, you're the new kid at school, right? It's bull crap. Because like I said, if they would review 10,000 hunting videos on YouTube, you don't see a lot of weird hits. I don't. maybe you've seen them, but maybe some guy says I screwed one up. I got that, right? But generally speaking, it's a pretty big sample size.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. And it's, I mean, our shots, I mean, we're, you know, I mean, when we plug one, it's great, but I mean, we were missing, you know, when we were having issues, it was jumping the string, maybe didn't aim low enough. You hitting them high, you hit them a little back or hit them. I mean, really the one that basically had me where I discovered you through the hunting public was I had one where, I mean, by far my most nightmare track job ever. I had perfect shot, quartering away. This was with a compound. Arrow flew. What I remember happening, everything flew perfect, and I was aiming right where I needed to have that thing exit right by the off shoulder.
Yep.
It was a Rage 2 blade, and I think, judging by how he ran off, it basically just hit the ribs and just ran up one side of him. Yeah. Single lung. I mean, I went through this roller coaster of emotions where I was like, what the heck happened? Watching him run away. I get down, bubbly blood everywhere. Yeah, so I'm like, okay, maybe I didn't do that bad. And then the next 8 hours were me. I mean, this is in a spot that was heavy residential. So I'm tracking this deer through two of the nicest neighborhoods in the area.
Somebody's toy poodle's barking at you.
I mean, seriously, it's a nice Saturday in November. There's kids playing in the yards. There's people mowing, raking leaves. And I'm going backyard, front yard, knocking on these doors, me and my buddy. And it was a mile and a half later. And he was still running, still moving, clotted up. We never found him. And that's when I was like, something has to change, because I felt like I did my part and something wonky happened, and I just can't. My buddy Nick had some other ones where we looked at shots on video, and I'm like, Nick, yeah, you're a little high, but it's not.
Yeah, right.
It's not bad. Like, this should be dead. And we found them, or, some of them were the next day, some of them were whatever, but it just wasn't what it should be for where I thought we were hitting. Granted, they weren't perfect shots, but they should have been lethal shots. And things just weren't.
You can't that's what I was saying. There's not enough focus on the stick. And the stick is what does the job. And you've done everything else right. All this time and energy and climbing up and down the trees and hiding this and that and the other, trying not to get the neighbors to look at you and all that stuff as you walk behind camouflage. And then the stick fails. And there comes a time where, like you said, you just got to I had the same experience, right? I got tired of it. It just I had nowhere else to go. I'm not going to get worse. Shooting a 700 grain arrow. All's going to happen is the same thing's going to happen, or something's going to shift. And I started just whacking things. And then when I did it, I started giving them to people like my nephews and stuff. They don't have any money. So if I hand them, basically what's a $50 arrow that they could never afford, it weighs 650 grams, is one of the best broadheads on the planet on it. That's my test case, because they're nervous and stuff. I've shot a bunch of them, right? And I don't get too jumpy on the pigs now until the big ones, but regular ones, I just whatever, back. And it's just because I do it a lot. But when you hand it to somebody who doesn't do it, my nephew, Charlie, shot one with a grizzly, 700 grains. It was a 205-pound pig, and it wouldn't broadside. And he got jumpy. And I told him, if you got to shoot 1/4 just shoot them right through shoot them forward right through here. And he did. And he cut the shoulder blade, a piece out of the shoulder blade, right through the ribs, went right through and came out in the guts. The pig went 75 yards and was dead. But he had the right stuff in his hands. And a complete indoctrination, I might add. So, right? He snorted the fairy dust. But that's when I know, when I'm able to hand them off and watch people with no experience do it. That's when you know you've moved the cheese.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
That's when your own experience is fine. But when I can just hand my bow, he's the same size as I am. So he shoots 28.5 inches. He shoots my cure, my setup, my arrows. zero it. It's only 20 yards, so it doesn't matter that they're flying. And then goes out and he comes back and he texts me and says, dude, I shot one. He's right there. And I'm like, okay, this is working. Because I remember going out with the regular stuff and literally saying, God, I hope I hit him right today. No, there was a lot of other factors making me fail.
Yep.
And it was all about the stick.
And I think what's important to touch on too, and maybe you can touch on this a little more for people that aren't familiar with Dr. Ed Ashby, but is just that this is data-driven stuff. So his studies are, I mean, I guess I haven't found anything other than his stuff on animals, actual like scientific studies on arrow penetration. And I think, you know, if you could maybe touch on just briefly, because I know I can post links to all of the Ashby Foundation stuff, and there's tons of great content on there, but maybe just touch briefly on his studies, how many animals he harvested, what he did. And then maybe if you could ballpark too, I mean, how many pigs you've successfully killed using these same.
There's 100 though. There's over 100 with all the people now. I'd rather take you and have you shoot one, and then I'll gut it and do all the autopsy stuff. All my friends shoot them now, but
yeah.
So here's the 4-minute Ed Ashby story. Ed was a PH in Africa. Bow hunting was illegal in 75% of the continent. That doesn't mean it doesn't mean it didn't occur. I mean, back then in the 70s, 80s, you just walk off the road. Nobody's coming, right? You can do whatever the hell you want. And he wanted to shoot a rhino with a bow. So he wrote the game board because he knew that, you know, that's big medicine right there. You're shooting impalas and stuff, nobody cares. But some guy got the letter and threw it in the drawer. 5 years later, Natal, the Natal game board, South Africa, I believe it's South Africa. Anyway, starts talking about trying to legalize bow hunting. And is it even efficient? And what's it efficient on? He said, I got a letter from this crazy guy who's a PH in Zambia or somewhere. I'm going to go try to find it. So he goes in his file and finds this letter. They find Ed. They say, we're willing to let you shoot a rhino. Ed's like, freaking, yeah, right? So he's got like a 95-pound longbow. He said, and I talked to him about it. He said, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I just got the heaviest arrow I could find, the longest, skinniest broadhead. And I went out and said, it's going to be great. I said, I was shooting tires and all kind of stuff, right? No data. He shoots his first rhino. I think he said he shot it at 7 yards. It was coming. He was on a hillside. There were 2 trails. One was at 20 and the one was at 7. And the rhino walked on the 7-yard one. He said, let it go past and buried it to the flesh, and the thing ran over there and croaked. And he was like, holy crap. So from that, Natal game board said, let's do a formal study. You're going to do it. So it's 20 years of research, thousands of animals with 113 data points. So 1,035, I think, is the official number, but zillions. And that study is written as white paper, and it legalized bow hunting for the continent of Africa. So if you've been to Africa bow hunting, you just have Ed Ashby to thank for that, no matter what you were shooting. So he's in Zim, and Mugabe gets a little jumpy, and somebody comes to his house and says, you have 24 hours to leave. Everything you own's gone. If you want to live, you need to go. He grabbed what he could and booked it and went to Australia. And he continued to study in Australia on Asiatic buffalo. Super detailed. He's got studies with 40-pound recurves, getting penetration to the fletching on Asiatic buffalo. It's all animal study. It's all animal shots. I'm currently playing with ballistic gel, and it's proving to be a completely terrible measuring stick for anything archery. We can't even shoot through it. I can shoot through pigs all day, and I can shoot through a deer and shoot through elk and stuff, but you can't shoot through a ballistic gel block.
Huh.
It's made to stop things. We're going to do a video on that with Hunting Public, I think, but it's really a bad surrogate. It's terrible, actually. The other day we were in Encinal, and there was every broadhead platform on earth. Everybody was shooting the regular stuff and all that. And the most penetration we got with a broadhead on ballistic gel was 17 and a half inches. They shot 6 pigs hunting, and we had all pass-throughs. And then we shot one of the pigs. We set him up kind of like Ed did and shot at him. And through bone, we got 2 600 plus grain arrows to go 17 inches through bone.
Jeez.
But the most penetration we got in gel was 17 inches. So it's not equivalent. It's a ballistic gel test. So that's why Ed didn't use gel. He said, I could never find a surrogate that replicated, deer to buffalo chest wall than air, because lungs are nothing. Like, they don't slow the arrow down.
That makes sense.
Right. But ballistic gel is very consistently dense.
Yep. And
just sucks up the air. The arrows are really hard to pull out of it. Like, I have to stand on the block to pull them out. I thought it would be kind of, boop. Nope. So the study's super detailed. It's on the Ashby Foundation. This is for the Ashby reports. The most interesting one is look up the Papua New Guinea study. He went there, and those cats shoot 4,000 plus grain arrows that are 7 feet long or something. They shoot 8 foot long longbows that they tiller out of some kind of wood there. And he said the bow works unbelievably awesome. And they shoot 4,000 to 6,000 grain spears with no fletch. And the forward center is like 45%. They shoot like 2,000 grain points. Jeez. And he got to talking to him, and he said, well, why? And they said, well, that's what works. Trust me, they don't have any penetration problems. And they spot and stalk sandbar deer, and they shoot them at 30, 35 yards all the time. Arrows going 100 feet per second. Jeez. And just goes, but they're hunting for real. Got to eat. It's a little different sport. We're hunting for fun. So that's a little bit about Ed, and he's one of the most interesting people you'll ever meet. And he's not, people paint this picture of him as this is the only stance in the world. And his stance is, until I broke my back, that's the best stick out there. Yeah. But there could be something else, because I didn't have the next 20 years of stuff. I didn't have a compound with the velocities we're shooting now, right? We have a lot more upgraded broadheads now, right? And he'd be the first to say it. Okay, so up to that study, with what I had, 650, high forward center, cut on contact, single bevel, hand sharp until it's hair popping sharp. Absolutely. But a lot of time has passed. And I've asked him, is there a lower mass arrow because of velocity that is also at the bone breaking threshold? So in his study, 650 and a forward center over 19%, and a single bevel, a long skinny single bevel was the bone breaking arrow. 100% bone breach on animals. And he looks at you and he says, I don't know. Is that the best answer you've ever heard? Right? Yeah. If the projectile's going from 178 feet per second to 240, but it's 592 grains with a single bevel or 4 blade, or I don't know. He just said, I don't know. It's the coolest answer I've ever heard in my life. Because he has the right to be one of those asshats if he wanted to be. Yeah. Yep. Okay, well, I opened the whole continent of Africa with a study that took 20 years, and I shot through Cape Asiatic buffalo with a longbow to the fletchings on the other side all the time. Go suck it. You can't get through a deer. He would never say that. He'd never say that.
What do you think? How many pigs for you, for your family, for your nieces, nephews?
Oh, we're 100, 150 now. I killed 62 one year. I got kind of pissed off. Now, that was the year that I bought an AR, and I had to test it.
Yeah, you got to use that too.
I went a little bit stupid. Yeah, I killed the shit out of them. But it's really in the hundreds now, legit. I was there kind of deals. And it's really been a great test medium because there's no laws.
Yep.
There's no season. There's no weapon restrictions. There's no nets, guns, helicopters, RPGs, bombs, tanks. They don't care fire. They don't. You don't have to keep them. There's no wanton waste laws on pigs. Right? So that's why you can't test on a deer.
Yep.
I mean, you could, but you shouldn't put it on YouTube because you're wasting the deer. It's a game animal. So that's wanton waste law. And that's why you don't get to see it. Right? There's people who've frozen shoulder blades and punched through stuff and done it a little more scientifically, got that. But to do what we're going to be able to do, which our first testing is going to be on ranches with high pig population, we're going to trap them. We're going to have a trap full of them, shoot them with a pistol or a gun, and get them out of there because the study requires within 30 minutes of dispatch.
Okay.
You can't shoot the next day pig. The animal itself changes due to rigor mortis.
Yep.
So you try to keep it as realistic as possible. And then when we go back to Australia, we got a place that wants us to shoot like 100 Asiatic buffalo. Oh, me and the 500. Oh, I'm going to be so used to recall. I'm just shooting at 22. Boom. But we're going to have to set up tests and like have a trailer with the computer and a 7 or 8 man team. We think it'd take 8 men to do it right. So we're going to have a shooter. We knock the buffalo down, and then everybody's got to get there because we got 30 minutes.
Yep. Get your gear out and test.
Right. I'll be the autopsy man, and I'll be collecting data. And then the autopsy and necropsy stuff, it doesn't matter. Go find another buffalo, and I'll come over there, right? But the shooting part, we're going to head shoot them or neck shoot them or whatever and try to get them down. It's right there. Roll them up. And then today we're testing mechanicals, or we're shooting fast, or we're shooting a 90-pound bow, or whatever it is. It's going to be super fun. We're just planning to stay a month.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I lived in Texas for 2.5 years, and I was really bummed I never got the opportunity to do a helicopter hog hunt. I really wanted to.
It is awesome. I did it one time. A friend of mine has a ranch with a high fence and zebras and all kind of stuff, and the pigs got out of control. And we got to rock the ARs, and we killed 43 in 2 hours.
Oh, geez.
And the helicopter pilot was like, yeah, they don't get away. This isn't really hunting. Like, we find them, we get them running, you shoot them. If you miss them, we go find them again and we push them out of the brush and we shoot them some more. It was really, really one of the better things I've ever done. It was super cool.
It looks, a few of my buddies had done it and they said it was, they showed me videos. I didn't even know that was a thing. And from a Michigan boy moving down there for the time I was like, this is crazy. I wish I could have done it. Like,
you're 100 feet in the air. You could almost jump out and you wouldn't die. If you were to fall out of the helicopter, you'd land in that field. You'd be busted up, but you wouldn't die. You're not super high. You're right on top of them. They fly you right down. When you see the guy shooting 12 gauge, the string's only that big. It looks like a basketball, just woo, woo, lighting them up. It's so fun.
Is with all the stuff that you're doing, and you talk quite a bit about the next challenge, the next thing after you shot that deer, after you caught that shark, you were done with that. Is crossbow hunting or crossbow tinkering, is that in your future? Is that something you are going to try at some point? Or
I'm going to actually shoot my buddies here. I've got a place to do testing and hunt pigs that's 20 minutes from my house, and he's got the Raven and something else.
Okay.
And I want to play around with them. I've never shot one, not one time. I've shot every gun on the damn earth, and I love shotguns. I love bird hunting, but I've never shot a crossbow. And so I need to explore that as I age. I'm 52 years old. So as I age, I'd rather have people come shoot the pigs for me. It's fun, but I guess I'm just getting old. It's more rewarding for me when people come and laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And they're thrilled to death to shoot a damn old 100-pound pig that I've shot a million of them. And it's super rewarding. It's just fun. When we had the hunting public last time, and they don't get to deer feeder hunt. Nobody drives them. I drove them in the scooter, 100 yards from the stand. Wouldn't want to pull a hammy or anything. Walking with a beer in your hand.
Yeah.
Yep. Not that we ever did that, sure. But if you're gonna pig hunt properly, there's beer, and just sit there and enjoy the day. The pigs are coming. It's really not hunting, and it turns into testing, and that's been probably the best part about it is they're pretty reliable. If you just need to test something, you're probably going to get pigs.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to trophy hunt or shoot a big one, you need to go hunting a lot. You need to hunt like a whitetail deer. You got to get serious. But your approach has got to be right, and the wind's got to be right, and you can't leave a scent trail with the boots. I wear rubber boots in the summer because they will pick up your footprints. You'll see a big boar hog go like this behind where you walked. They'll hit your footprints. They don't even grunt or anything. They stop and they go, and they just walk off. It's like, where's the 30-06? Woohoo! But yeah, I'm probably going to do it. And I know the guys who've done it out there have had really good success with it. I'm trying to get them to adult up. I've dropped off some adult broadheads to a couple of them, and they're scared of them.
Scared of shooting them out of their crossbow?
Yeah, they're just scared. They're manly. The 200-grain Maasai from Grizzly Stick is pretty manly looking, and they'd rather shoot the old flipper flaps or whatever the hell they're tinfoil arrows. They feel more comfortable. But we'll get there. Nice. They would be surprised with the stick performance, right? You've talked about that. Yep. You and your friends are seeing this crazy stuff happen, and the arrows are like effortlessly, like the deer's not there.
Yep.
The arrow's flying, there's something in the way, it hits the dirt, and the deer goes dead. It's a completely different experience.
And I mean, are your friends having issues at all with their current bolts, broadheads with crossbows?
Not anymore, because I get so many toys. They're shooting the adult stuff now. But
yeah, my
buddy Chris Griego I just got him, pulled him over he's not really a bow hunter. He's a big Western mule deer gun guy, but the hunts we go on are super adventurous. So it's fair. It's not like just potting him out of the window of the truck. But he was with me the other day, and I got a Tough Head Evolution video coming up, and he was my shooter, and I was in my saddle. I have a tethered Phantom, and I saddled up behind him on one of our stands and videoed him shooting this pig. And he shot the 200-grain Tough Head Evolution out of my bow, about 640 grains or something, 630. And this one pig just walked out like 12 yards. And it's so steep, right? He turned it loose, and she jumped the string, and it just goes chut, and her spine was exploded. I do a full necropsy on her. She came apart in my hands. Literally, I cut down I pulled the skin back. You can see the wound. You can see where the spine was hit. Obviously, she didn't run. It was a complete pass through. And when I cut down the back of the spine like this, she just went dunk into two pieces. It wasn't cut in half. The bone exploded. Jeez. It was impressive. And even he looked back at me and goes, "Those things work, man. That's unbelievable." Because it went all the way through her, right? You're used to seeing those spine shots where it's chuck and, 6 inches is sticking out the other side or whatever.
Yep.
It just goes chut and it's in the dirt and smoked her. So I gave him some upgrades, but most of my friends have moved up. All of my nephews who don't have any money, as discussed, they don't have a choice. They moved up, and it's been fun. The most rewarding thing that's happened to me is I love coaching. And when I start getting the fall emails, bear season's going right now, so I'm getting the bear guys in.
Okay.
But I get a ton of emails, like you said. This is the first time I've ever seen an arrow go through a deer. And there's some guy's 40 years old. It isn't like he's some 10-year-old kid. He's been around the block a couple times. He tells some old country boys been bow hunting for a while. And it's the first time they shot through a deer. Or the first time I shot, like you said, I shoot them, they run about 40, and you go get them. There's no more effort. They're dead.
Yep.
And that's the best part. It's so rewarding to see people succeed. So hopefully I can get some people down to shoot home a pigs for me so I don't have to do it. Have you ever come to Texas?
Me and my friends, we will come. If there's ever an invite, I'll bring Chad, Nick, Michael, a couple of my other buddies. I mean, I never shot a pig when I was down in Texas. Where I hunted. They're honest. I mean, they were there, but I never really seriously pig hunted. We were deer hunters. But no, I mean,
they take a little bit of work to get them right. I mean, it took me about 5 years to get them where I got them figured and I got the setups right and you can approach right. Because like right now, summer's beginning and it's a great time to kill a big one.
Yeah.
All my neighbors are fishing. I live near the ranch is near the coast. So all the dudes who live in town, they got fishing boats and they all go fishing all summer. So they stop deer feeding. They stop pushing them. The big ones get a little more lazy. Lots of days pass, months pass when nothing happens. There's no scooter action. Nobody's in the pasture. There's no yelling. There's no shooting. And they get a little easier. And the little ones get it's dumb. Ted Zangerly, when he was with me, we went in and parked my truck and walked in. I set up the camera and we're talking and crap. And we sit down and all of a sudden this pig about 15 minutes before the feeder goes off, just walks out. He looks at me and I said, okay, quack. He shoots at it and it drops. It broke his back. I said, hey, man, the feeder had to go off. He goes, I got one. I'm like, yeah, I know you got one. I ran out there. It was about 80 pounds. I grab it by the back feet and I run back and I just sling it behind the blind. I get back behind the camera and the feeder goes off and 10 more come out. And he shoots another one. He goes, this is really fun. I'm like, yeah, this is really fun. That's the best part about it is it's kind of set up. It's not a ton of work. We have a good time. We laugh a lot, jack around, do whatever. But yeah, maybe we can get you guys to come down and maybe next spring we can do something. It gets kind of awful. You only hunt in the afternoon. So July, the day is so long.
Yeah.
And we're believe it or not, you're an old guy. So you're still going to get up at 7 and do that for like 3 hours and eat breakfast. Then you go outside and you say, damn, it's hot. Then you go back inside, you sit in the AC. But it can be really spectacular for the big ones. You can really kill a big one this time of year.
And, I mean, you talking about you appreciating or really enjoying helping people getting those texts. I mean, I think you were probably one of the first ones outside of my core group of friends that I texted where I was like, holy crap. Like all the things that you talked about, the reaction, the what happened.
Right.
Honestly, I didn't believe it. It was amazing. And then when my buddies too, few of them bought in right away. I mean, we watched all your videos, we did all your stuff together. And then we had a few guys that were honestly, I mean, they were on the fence about even continuing to crossbow hunt. They were like, I'm just going to gun hunt because I'm sick of this crap. Yeah. And one guy in particular, we were like, just try this. We're like, he bought Phoenix bolts. He bought iron will broadheads. Like he spent money. We nicknamed him Lunchbox because he's always killing deer he goes out on like 2-hour hunts during lunch break and kills those midday cruisers. And he shot one. I mean, I think it was like 18 yards. He's like, dude, the thing literally took 2 steps, stood there, fell over. And he's been on a couple just one lung rodeos and other things where it's like you watch videos and you're like, dude, these things we should not be doing this right now. So
not
seriously,
at that kind of velocity.
Yeah. So, no, I mean, honestly, from my group of friends, I mean, there's a lot of other people too. Just like, thank you for the content that you put out, how easy you make it to, to do, because we're just country boys. Like we're not really into spending. We just want to hunt, and this stuff, tuning bolts, tuning arrows, tuning all that kind of stuff. It was it was easy. I mean, like if we can do it honestly to the
Well,
people
I got lots of
listening,
people to thank in the background too. I mean, the rocket, the big Mike Tanaka
Big
reached out to
Mike.
me when I had like 1,000 subscribers. He said, "Man, you're killing some good pigs," and he started sending me pictures of some pigs. And he's the one who introduced me to noctuning, working with the stick, get it to fly. He's the first person I ever saw. I sent him my bow to get the string. He redid the strings on one of my bows, and he sent me a picture of a piece of paper, and it had 100, 125, 200, 250, 300, and there was bullet holes across. He said it'll shoot 125, 300, and 275 like a dart. So shoot one of those. And he didn't tell me what he was doing. And I texted him. I was like, "What the hell is that?" He goes, "Well, everybody does that." I'm like, "Nobody does that." And he said, "You just change the points, and then when it gets close, you turn the knocks, and that's the 3 ways it'll fly." I said, "On the same shaft?" He said, "Yeah." And then he starts unpacking, and I was just like, "People got to hear this," because if my bow will shoot 6 different setups right now, but I'm changing spine and stuff, and you don't shoot real heavy on a soft arrow and all that. I can shoot all kinds of stuff. But once he showed me that, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I got to get that. People got to hear about this because the average guy doesn't know that." And it's magic. And I can shoot any broadhead platform on earth. If it weighs the weight that I'm shooting, it doesn't matter. I
Yeah.
shoot the 300 grain tough head 3-blade. I shoot the freaking long ones. I shoot the short, fat, whatever, the bishop stuff. It flies because the stick works. The stick is right.
Yep.
I'm glad that you think it's easy because that was my goal. I've got some science videos coming up, and it's going to be you got to get some medication because we got a lab radar unit. They're about twice the size of an iPad, and they're about that thick. And they shoot a cone of radar, and it'll catch the arrow in flight. And then you set the distances that it catches the speed, and then you get a chart in Excel of the velocity over distance.
Okay.
And I've got a speed erosion video coming up. We did kinetic energy from that, and then I've got the momentum coming, and the results are exactly what we're talking about. A 388 grain arrow out of my bow at 65 pounds shoots 294.
Okay.
It lost 35 feet per second over 60 yards.
Okay.
So it's going 260. That's at 60. So I'm shooting at an elk. There's not an asshat on any message board shoot a 260 foot per second arrow at an elk. You wouldn't hear it. They would not accept that.
Mm-hmm.
A 718 grain arrow leaves my bow at 205 and loses 14 feet per second over 60 yards, but it weighs 718 grains. It's twice as heavy. The kinetic energy charts like that. The top line's nothing, and it goes like this, and the really heavy arrows, it loses I think the 388 grain arrow lost 20 pounds of kinetic energy, and the 718 grain arrow lost something like 8.
Okay.
Over 60. So it's going to be super fun. That one's going to be it's going to be disturbing, but it is math. So you can bitch about the math and you can tell me I'm stupid, but it's math. That kind of stuff's really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're getting nerd central.
I like it. I like that kind of stuff. We're, that is the kind of thing. And I mean, kind of going back to crossbows shoot. I mean, mine shoots 415. I mean, there's crossbows everywhere are 400 plus now. I mean, it's
crazy. What that speed erosion is at 60. I'd love that. That I would do. I would have to get what's his name, because y'all shoot really big veins.
On the
Phoenix, suck it up.
On the Phoenix bolts, yeah, they're big ones. A lot of other ones aren't. I mean, there's some, you can get some bolts that basically have like blazers or 3-inch. I think these are 4s. But man, in mine, I don't know what the speed erosion is, but on a 390 grain setup, which is basically like the factory bolts that come 100 grain point, it shoots pretty much right at 415. And I don't have a chronograph, but they have calibrated speed ring scopes. that
Mm-hmm.
I use that as my measure of speed. This 543 grain bolt shoots 375.
That's not much of a give up, and it weighs a ton.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of
That's
the other ones,
trucking.
bolts are like bows. I have another bow that shoots 370 with a 390 grain. It's like 330 with this.
Yes,
So
smoking.
you're not giving up. Yeah, you're not giving up much. And with the crossbows, I mean, these fast ones, and you've probably noticed this too with your compound, like shock, vibration, sound, all of that
Mm-hmm.
greatly reduce. I mean, crossbows are
Yeah,
loud. They are
yeah.
freaking loud, and shooting these heavy bolts, sound wise, feel, just overall, I mean, it's smoother. It's way
We're
smoother.
seeing some stuff in the data in the when we actually graph it, and we think we're starting to see an efficiency spot. And we've done 3 different bows so far, and that number's 640.
Okay.
Is that crazy? Because Ed's number is 650. And we think we're seeing a spot where the math goes like this, and then we're seeing a knee.
Okay.
And we think that's when it starts. That's when the bow is starting to get a little overwhelmed, or it might be at maximum efficiency, right? Super quiet, pushing all the juice it can, because whether people want to believe this or not, taking a 70-pound bow and shooting a 350 grain arrow through it, it's got a ton of juice left.
Yep.
That's why all the sound is, right?
Yep.
It has a ton of juice. And it can, when I shoot 1,000 grain, about 900, my bow pushes back. You actually feel the bow go, oh. I mean, it doesn't jump or anything, but it's in the same feel. It's not dead in the hand. It's like, and that's when it's a little overwhelmed, I think. But we're seeing some stuff in the graphs that we have. We have tons of data that we think we found an efficiency spot. And that number's been between 625 and 640.
Okay.
On 3 different bow platforms. And another thing I want to do is I want to shoot real high helical vanes through the labradar. I bet it's worse, because my vanes were almost straight. They're a little offset, because I like a little offset. I only did a lot of helical, but I bet like a Arizona Easy Fletch or something that looks like a barber pole going around it. I bet they're gonna. I think they're just gonna so much drag, and that's just gonna make you less accurate. Way out there,
Yeah.
So super fun. Well, if I get to sling a compound, a expo around, I'll let you know.
Yeah, please do.
I'll get Stacy. He'll let me do it.
Yeah, definitely let me know. One more question we all wanted to kind of know. My group of friends, you always say send your hate mail to troy@ranchfairy.com.
Mm-hmm.
Give me your favorite or top couple hate mails.
I really don't get it.
What?
Nope.
None?
I rarely get any hate mail. I've gotten it from a couple of people that are in the industry.
Okay.
And but the general public, I get a couple of dumb comments on YouTube where some guy's like, I've shot 150 deer and I've never lost one. Yeah, right. Never is a really big word. But interestingly, I don't get, I think just daring people to send it to me keeps people from doing it.
Nice.
And also, I keep a pretty tight eye on my channel, on the comments. And if somebody's an idiot, I will kick them in the freaking head. I just blast back. I got nothing to lose.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't get a lot of hate mail. I get some people who say, hey, I've hunted all over the world and you don't know what you're talking about. Nothing ever goes wrong with me and all that. But it's surprising. I thought it would be worse. So I keep saying, hey, I think they're afraid I'll put it up. If I get a good one, I'm going to put it up.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
Please do.
Post it. Here's my latest hate mail. I have had some people say, hey, you cuss a little bit and I don't like your style. I get more of that. I don't like your style and you're laughing all the time and say crazy crap and you're real direct and super sarcastic. I get that. But as far as the system is concerned, I get a ton of people. Probably the most common, not really hate mail, just I'm not doing that is, and this is why I did the 0 to 60 tests. It's the Western guys. And there's a couple of Western channels that have been all over me they don't even know what they're talking about. And they're all over me, which helps me because people find out. They say, this ranch fairy guy's an idiot. And people are like, who's ranch fairy? Don't ever say that. If you don't like me, don't say my name, because people grab their phone and they start typing and they find out about me and then you're all screwed.
Yep.
Bad idea. But I totally understand the physics. I understand what you're talking about, but I've shot 5 elk at 85 yards and hadn't had any trouble, never had any trouble. And I don't want to give up my range for one of these arrow systems. Where's the middle ground? And I just say there isn't. You either got to choose the stick that kills the animal and then hunt differently, or you got to choose an inferior system. And you got to take, this is my normal response, and you have to take really responsible shot angles. Yeah. And elk scare me in archery business because they're big and people take their whitetail setups, whatever. There isn't a whitetail deer arrow, by the way. They all have bones, but they take what they think is a whitetail deer arrow and they go calling. What's an elk going to do if you call it? He's going to be walking,
coming in
at you.
Yep.
And you're going to get really bad angles. And so what people do with their Twizzler sticks is they shoot them behind the crease and hope. And they gut shoot them. And they're big. They can take a lot of punishment. And I think there's a lot more losses in the elk woods than people talk about. And knowing that you're calling and knowing that your elk's going to come at you, you should be shooting a freaking spear. So I get these emails where people are like, yeah, I get that, but I also want to be able to shoot 80. And that's why I did the 0 to 60 series, because it's just math. And the math is terrible for the light stuff. The math is absolutely horrific at 60 yards, comparatively. We're talking about an arrow shaft leaving at 71 kinetic energy off the muzzle and landing at 49 at 60 yards.
Okay.
You're telling me these people are going to accept 49 foot-pounds of kinetic energy at 60 yards if they knew that?
No.
If they do, they're just hard-headed.
Yeah.
They're not being responsible. And then we'll take that data and we'll start applying sticks to it with broadhead platforms, and we'll find out in the Ashby Foundation. So it's kind of preemptive Ashby math, but I'm probably not going to publish any of when we start testing, I'm going to Ashby stuff. And you'll see me there.
Okay.
So, hate mail's not that much.
Not much for us, but my favorite comment after we posted that video of my buddy Chad. He got his first buck in Michigan, was canoeing it through some crazy swamps and all this stuff.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, somebody's comment was, "This is why crossbows should be illegal. Even Chad can kill deer." And that's that's
somebody who knows him.
Yeah, I don't think it is. We don't know who it is, but yeah, that's our favorite one. But Troy, man, thank you so much for coming on. I would love to do this again with you, especially after you play around with some crossbow stuff. This was really fun. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing some more of your knowledge with us.
Of course. Thanks for having me. It's always cool.